Erik Halterman of RotoWire here with my trade tips for you for the first full week of the regular season. We might play around with the format of these early on in the season based on your feedback, but for this week, we'll do one traditional buy low, one buy while you still can. That's not a buy high, that's a buy before he gets even higher. And then on the sell side, we'll have a sell high and a sell while you still can. Let's start with that buy low, who is Rōki Sasaki. Really struggling so far through his first two starts. Walked 5, struck out 3 in 3 innings in his major league debut, and then in his stateside debut, he lasted just an inning and 2/3. Struck out 2 and walked 4. So that's 5 strikeouts against 9 walks in 4 2/3 so far. So why am I saying to target Rōki Sasaki this week? Well, because he was overdrafted, but for durability reasons, not talent reasons. So this is your chance to get him for something close to the price that I think he probably should have been going for all along. Sasaki topped out at 20 starts in Japan, so I'm doubtful about how helpful he'll be to your team in August and September, but I have full confidence that he's going to come around on the talent side of things. This is a 23-year-old who was always going to have some growing pains, but who absolutely dominated the second best league in the world. Had a 33% strikeout rate and 6% walk rate over in Japan. Compare that to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's already finding success stateside. Yamamoto had the same 6% walk rate, but a significantly worse, although still very strong, 26% strikeout rate. So again, no questions about the talent for Sasaki. Give him a chance to adjust to a new country, new teammates, and a new ball as well. It's not hard to envision a world where you just missed the 2 worst starts of Rōki Sasaki's season, and you can give up somebody you drafted 3, 4, 5 rounds later and still get all of Sasaki's good starts. Now that might only be 18 to 20 good starts, but I do still think they're coming. I would try to buy as soon as possible here before Sasaki has a good start and his owner decides to hold. I think you got a brief window where they're likely still panicking. Now for our not buy high, but buy before he gets way too high, let's go with Cristopher Sanchez. This might be a tough one. It might already be too late because he was one of the buzziest players this spring, but I think you still have a window to get Cristopher Sanchez, who doesn't have elite strikeout stuff, but he does have everything else. Over the last 2 years, he's got a 22% strikeout rate, that's about league average, but a 5% walk rate and 57% ground ball rate. Both of those marks are excellent. Other pitchers who have similar marks over the last couple seasons, Logan Webb is almost exactly there, just with a few extra ground balls, and then both Max Fried and Framber Valdez walk a few more batters, strike out a few more as well, but have almost identical ground ball rates. That was the profile so far for Sanchez, but he might actually add elite strikeout stuff to the picture this year now that he's added 2 ticks of velocity. His sinker jumped from 94.5 to 96.5 after his first start of the year. Now note that in that first start, we didn't see the cutter, a pitch he was rumored to be working on this spring, so that either means he shelved it or there could even be another level coming once he gets that working. In that first start, which came against the Rockies in Philly, Sanchez went 5 1/3, allowed 1 run on 4 hits, 7 strikeouts against just 2 walks, and that 1 run was a homer on the final pitch of his outing, so he was really cruising up until that point. Sanchez already finished 10th in Cy Young voting last year, so it was kind of confusing to me why he was so affordable in most drafts this year. You could say the breakout's already come, but I think it's going to reach another level this year. Main event drafters pushed him way up the board, correctly, I think, but most leagues aren't quite as quick to react as drafters in the main event, so I think you still have a small window here. Consider buying now, although note that Sanchez gets the Dodgers in his next start, so you could hope that he gets knocked around a bit in that one and then send an offer. But of course, if Sanchez shuts down the Dodgers, I think your window to buy might be shut. I'll get over to my 2 players to sell in a minute, but first I want to remind you that we've got all sorts of tools at RotoWire.com to help you with your trade decisions. My favorite is called My Leagues, where you can upload your leagues and use the trade finder to see a list of trades that our projections think will help your team. Go to rotowire.com/try for free access to check all that out. Now on to the sells. Let's start with a traditional sell high, and that's going to be Andrés Giménez. Giménez is a good player who's going to help fantasy teams this season, but he might be overvalued for a little bit after homering 3 times in his first 5 games. I think we all laughed at Giménez batting cleanup for the Blue Jays, who acquired him from Cleveland over the winter, but then Giménez suddenly started hitting like a cleanup hitter, so maybe we were wrong, except the thing is he actually hasn't started hitting like a cleanup hitter. He has 3 homers, but only one of his homers was actually a barrel. If you're curious, roughly 5 out of every 6 homers are the result of a barrel, while only half of barrels result in homers. So to have more homers than barrels is unusual and unsustainable. I don't think Giménez is suddenly breaking out and becoming a power hitter. I do think he's going to be a useful player this season, so it shouldn't be hard to get some real trade offers for him, but his value comes from his speed and his playing time, plus maybe a decent batting average as well. Giménez topped out at 17 homers in 2022, but just had a 6.2% barrel rate that year. Nothing special. Barrel rate dropped to 2.8% last year, and he hit just 9 homers. He'll probably get into the low teens this year, but see if you can find somebody who's willing to buy into the idea that between the cleanup role and the early homers, there might be another level here in Giménez's age 26 season, because I still think he's fine, but probably nothing more than that. And finally, the last player on the list, a sell low before he gets even lower. That's Rafael Devers, and it might already be too late in some leagues. I wouldn't go so far that I'm selling Devers for just anybody, but if I can move him for a player who was drafted just a round or two later, I'd be strongly considering it already. Through 5 starts, Devers has a 65% strikeout rate and 0 hits. He has the same batting average as you and me, 0-0-0. Now, Devers is not going to stay this bad, obviously, but there are lots of reasons to believe this is going to be a down year for him. He dealt with shoulder issues all throughout last year, and while you might have been encouraged that he still got over 600 plate appearances and still had an 870 OPS, he never had any sort of surgery to address that shoulder soreness, and it was a pretty big red flag when he showed up to camp this year still battling shoulder troubles. That means they're pretty serious and not something that was solved just by resting over the offseason. So why would you think they're going to be solved while he's playing every day? I think at minimum, there's probably going to be some sort of IL stint coming to rest his shoulders, maybe even surgery. And the depths of Devers' struggles could be related to the fact that he had a slow start to camp again as he was ramping up slowly due to those shoulder issues. So you could say he's still in spring training mode while the rest of the league is in the regular season, so that's why he's doing quite this poorly. I think there's something to that, but even if you do expect a bounce back to what is the question? The best case scenario for Devers this season still involves him playing through untreated shoulder soreness, and also involves him dealing with the DH penalty all season, because the Red Sox are probably not going to move Alex Bregman off third base at this point. Studies have consistently shown that hitters do worse when they're stuck as a designated hitter, probably because it's harder to stay focused when you could go up to an hour between your opportunities to affect the game. So it's probably smart to wait until Devers' first good game to send out some trade offers, and hopefully you can get some people who think that he's going to be basically the same guy he was all year. He'll probably have that good game soon, so I think you could wait to send out potential deals until then, but each day you wait is a day closer to the Red Sox giving up and just putting him on the IL. So it's a pretty difficult situation if you're stuck holding the bag with Rafael Devers this year. That's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments below if you managed to swing a trade either for or trade away any of these guys. And remember, head on over to rotowire.com/try for free access to the site.